Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the CXO show, the favorite time of my week. Today, I have my friend Dinesh with us, and I'm very,
Hi.
very excited to have this particular conversation. For those of you all watching the show for the first time, the CXO show features some of India's most successful professionals, people that have done exceedingly well in their careers. And of course, Dinesh is one of those people who've done exceedingly well in their careers. And the objective for listeners is for them to be able to pick up something which is practical, real, implementable from this particular show. Coming from these particular professionals that more or less run the economy. And while we call it the CXO show, as we are a learning company, our clear favorites are often the HR heads and the learning and development heads, because these are the people that we love the most. Maybe because we get business from them, but we like the HR and L&D people the most. And truth be told, I also feel that the HR and L&D community has a lot of insights on careers because they're always involved with either getting new people in their system or really have a close eye on the existing people in their particular system, right? So they can share some really interesting insights with professionals, both young and old, and that's why we love featuring these people on the CXO show. Dinesh, are you happy to be here?
Hi, Swapnil. Thank you for having me here. And honestly, what better on a Friday? So I'm sincerely happy to be here and interact with you.
Got it. So I'm going to
Thank
do
you.
one thing which is slightly formal, and then we're going to go back, like we discussed, to a very candid, honest, fun discussion. I'm going to read your introduction for people so that they know you slightly better before we start this particular engagement. Dinesh Bojwani is the head of human resources at Star Union Dai-ichi Life Insurance. He's responsible for the people and HR tech strategy for 6,000 plus employees in the organization. Under his HR leadership, the company was recognized by Golden Peacock for HR practices and was one of the top 100 companies to work for in the BFSI sector in FY 22-23. When it comes to the BFSI industry, Dinesh has more than 2 decades of HR experience and has been associated with organizations like Indus in Bank, Tata AI Life Insurance, and ICICI Lombard General Insurance before joining Star Union Daiichi. Be it retail, broking, or insurance, Dinesh has been instrumental in developing and implementing HR strategies across industries. With an MBA in human resource management, Dinesh is also a student mentor and a TED Ed talk facilitator, in addition to being on the industry panel of the BFSI Skill Sector Council of India. Welcome to the show, Dinesh. It's always a pleasure for me to interact with you offline whenever I have the few times. And I'm glad we're
Absolutely.
doing it on this particular show. And, when I meet a lot of HR leaders, very often I've not actually been on their floor, and I've had the good fortune of being on the Star Union Daiichi 4 for an initiative we launched together. And as an HR head, I could see that you've really been instrumental in building a really good culture and really good, for want of a better word, vibe at Star Union Daiichi. So yeah, good job there.
Thank you, Swapnil. Once again, thank you for this generous introduction here. And honestly, once again, I'm happy to be here and interacting with you. Although always in private, in-person meeting is better.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, 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 yes. We
we're
we
happy
will.
to have you at the launch of
Yeah,
our upgrad initiative, which
yeah,
is a part of our
yeah,
higher studies or higher education policy for students.
yeah.
And a lot of inputs that we have drawn from upgrad, have given a complete an element of strategy and how
Thank
it
you.
can be implemented to us by you. So a lot of
Thank you.
ideas that your young team has also generated for us. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Always good to hear that. Dinesh, before we go any further, the first thing that I want you to run the audience through is your journey, probably right from your college, and when you got out of college, and to your this journey of becoming an HR head. Of course, I've read it out in terms of the companies that you've been at, but coming from you, there'll be, I guess, more fun for the audience, and they'll be able to connect with you a little more.
Absolutely fair. So I'll start. It may take a few minutes, to cover this journey. I'll try to be
Yeah.
brief and yeah. So I'm actually from a city called Indore, which is also known as Mini Mumbai, and Mini
Mm.
Bombay then, and Mini Mumbai now, and it's a sort of a cosmoculture there. And
Mm.
so most of my education has happened there. Studied in KV for 12 years, and then graduated, and then post graduated also. But during this period, I got this opportunity to play football at a national level, to enjoy bike rides, and and whatnot.
Mm.
And I now, in the hindsight, when I realize, I think that was a very, very important
Mm.
part of growing up. It's not only always that you have to go to college and school and score marks and blah blah
Mm.
blah, but then there is something else to it. There is college life, and then there is whatnot. So I also attempted CDS, and I was through, but then there are certain things that you know uh, certain things which are not acceptable,
Mm.
physically, to so you I have curved legs,
Mm.
so
Mhm.
so that's a disqualification there. But
Got it.
then that's how it started. Otherwise, I would have been in the OTA, with Indian Army.
Mm.
So that was that. But then when I started my career, I'll straight away jump to this. Other than the extracurricular activities that everyone goes through, I
Mm.
started my career with an IT organization. An IT organization, when Y2K was in the boom.
Mm.
IT was the industry then, and
Mm.
these smaller locations, smaller towns did not have many opportunities then. Now
Mm.
there are plenty of opportunities, and people find opportunities. The young generation, especially. But then it started earlier in Delhi, then here in Mumbai. After that IT company, I landed up an opportunity in ICICI Lombard, and that's when the career started. And
Mm.
uh, that's where self-learning clubbed with mentoring,
Mm.
by the head of HR there, or by the senior leaders of certain accomplishments. It
Mm.
started there, and you see, one thing which has stayed with me is that particular culture promotes learning on the job.
Mm.
They will give you an opportunity, they will throw you to the far end, and then they will see whether you can really succeed. They
Mm.
will not allow you to fail, because system is too big, and those kind of systems don't allow anyone to fail. But the
Mm.
empowerment, one thing that has stayed with me,
Mm.
and since then, maybe because those formative years, that has stayed with me, and I not only practice that, but I also feel that other people, in order to make mark,
Mm.
also yearn for it, also
Mm.
feel do well when they are empowered. So that particular
Mm.
thing has kept me going.
Mm.
That's one. Another thing, and learning has happened everywhere. It's not that there have been failures when I've worked for these organizations, and there have been very, very tough moments, instances thrown at by the
Mm.
macro situations, and the micro situations, both on the job and off the job in the economy. But good things have happened, and that organization would has a deep imprint here, in
Mm.
the psyche and what I do today. Followed by, there have been a couple of small stints, but very, very meaningful stints. On the way, we've enjoyed not only working, but also generating wealth, because you have to
Mm.
really stay put with an organization in order to build something. And
Mm.
when you build
Yeah.
something, these organizations, including SUD Life, they reward
Mm.
you handsomely. But
Mm.
learnings in the structured fashion started there, followed by Tata, which was also under a great mentor,
Mm.
opportunities. And everywhere, what I see, the great organizations have empowered their people. They've allowed
Mm.
them to do mistakes. They've
Mm.
allowed them to learn in a structured as well as in an unstructured fashion.
Mm.
Although and learning happens there. So
Mm.
I'm grateful to each one of them, including SUD Life, that has handling zonal profiles and blah blah blah. Here is the company, where I got what I have actually yearned for, have have been working towards, which is where I said, okay, now let's at some point of time, I must become the head of HR for a medium sized company first. And here
Mm.
is that opportunity that has come to me through
Mm.
SUD Life, and I'm absolutely enjoying it. absolutely wanting to do certain things for the people, the young workforce that is joining us. And an upgrad or signing up with upgrad is one such initiative, because while unstructured learning can continue to happen, but people who are already riding a very, very fast horse,
Yeah.
they would want this to happen in a very structured fashion and very fast.
Yes.
Generation is very different from what we were.
Absolutely.
So absolutely enjoying what one should be enjoying in creating something for it, something for some other people.
Amazing. Amazing. So have you, where did this love for HR come from? Was it something that just happened by mistake when you were in college, or did something really lead to that love for HR in some way?
Okay, I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
I was cut out for sales is what I was told. Therefore,
Yeah.
the natural choice was go for marketing. Until date, people have said, you should have joined sales. I don't know why. I'm yet to realize why. What have they seen, or what have they realized, or maybe my interactions are hinting towards that side of the career. So even mentors at that point of time said, must join sales, marketing, and therefore, I mean, join sales as a professional. So therefore, marketing was the natural choice. So to be very honest, this happened accidentally. I don't know under what weakness or strength, but this decision came out, and I cannot, attribute a decision to join HR or choose HR as a subject or as a specialization during the management graduation, post graduation days. But I don't know. It happened, and after that also in the weaker times or the weaker moments, there is a thought, why should we not choose? So there there are mid age or midlife crisis, as we call it, similarly mid career crisis. So I mean, it's not that I was unemployed or I was looking out for an opportunity, but there are confusions, you see. So there is always in this 1.5 kgs of jelly, you continuously think. Yeah, so there I approached a coach and I said, okay, whether I'm adding value or not adding any value, I would want to do something which is tangible, which is contributing maybe. So he said, okay, even within HR, you can have your own P&L and balance sheets and all that. So why don't you create such? Why don't you have SLAs? Why don't you start billing, your own clients within? And the opportunity and the authority as the head of HR or the distribution head of HR, then it allowed me to do that. And then gamification of the job happened, in some sense, in my own mind.
Got it.
So although it happened accidentally, but I'm perfectly enjoying it today. If somebody would ask me to change shift, probably the first immediate programmed response will be, no, why should I?
Yeah. So basically you got into it. There's no specific reason that got you into it. And of course, like all people, you've had your own mid-career crisis always, where, you're always questioning stuff, but decided to stay put on HR. And I think rightly so. I think you're a fantastic HR head. Got it. I heard a couple of things from you that I thought were very, very interesting, right? I think you spoke about the importance of learning on the job, which happens when you are empowered by someone, right? When the organization or the leaders empower you. Tell me, how do you drive that same thought process in your current organization as an HR head, or as a leader of people, as a HR leader? How do you drive this process?
Okay. So Swapnil, there is there is always a background to this. If you are continuously learning, by reading, by observing people, by interacting with people, and if you are really learning, listening and learning, the change is bound to happen. Things will happen. So I'll tell you about I was also very, very when I started my career, when I started managing teams, I thought direction is the only way. Prescribe something for people and they will do it. That's how it started. Over a period of time, things have changed. Things have changed because you receive feedback. Things have changed because you also do not want to do things to yours. Do not want to be the recipient of things that you don't like. Therefore, similarly, other people also think that this is not the treatment that I should be getting.
Mm.
That's also one big realization that happens to people. Then you learn, then you see other leaders, then they also demonstrate, exhibit different kind of competencies, different kind of behavioral aspects, and that's where you learn. So this empowerment thing, when I realized that, look, I only flourish when I get an opportunity to do things without any fear, without any sort of people's fear or people's opinion. FOPO, fear of people's opinion. So if you do something without that, your opportunities are better. And I'll tell you a personal anecdote. I when I This is about my football days, 11th and 12th standard, and we used to play Kasliwal Trophy kind of events. That was the KV thing, the best of the KV, Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan things. Now, in a particular game, the coach chose me as the last person in that game, because the game before that was where I missed scoring and I was playing as the center forward and blah blah. Now, when the person chose me, I still remember the name of the coach. His name was Mr. Ketwas, and he said, "Okay, we give you an opportunity, one more opportunity." That's when I thought, let me play fearlessly. There is nothing to lose, and this developed in my head first. That was probably one of the best games that I delivered to my school, during those days. I feel this, clubbed with what happened to me in Lombard, Tata AIG, Reliance Retail, and IndusInd Bank, and all that, has shaped and has given me that immense freedom to operate. Now, how do I practice it here? Leading from the front, which is an army style of leading, to what leaders of the industry now are coming up with their own narratives and thought processes, that leading from behind is very, very important. Trust me, leading from behind is very, very important. I have some great people in my team. I have, rather, all of them are, great guys, great leaders at number 2 level. They one of whom you also, or your team also, is dealing with, Dipankar. They are such people that give them an opportunity and they would replace you immediately, not because of any other reason, but in competence, but the way would want to. So you just have to watch and give them the right type of motivation, give them the right type of push, support them when they are sulking, or when they are feeling bad, or when they fail, they do not succeed. And this is not in theory, and I'm not saying this for the sake of saying this, Swapnil.
I know.
Honestly, this is what I've experienced. And each of these guys, the 4 or 5 people that I may call work with me closely, have can do immense, and have been doing immense. They take full responsibility, full load, full confusion. There is no doubt in their mind. They are ready to take challenges. They can go for you on battle, and you just have to watch and support them at the right time. I think this has been working well. And they sort of have, will make you redundant, and that's what has been happening with me. So I think what I've received is what I am trying to give back, and it is not about me. It is about them, because they also want to make an impact. They also are here to succeed. They are also here to be leaders, and they are also here to lead functions and become HODs and whatnot, and keep growing. They also want to have a different kind of second career, because they are all very young. At 40, they would have had what I I'm having at 45, 48 now. So what will they do for the rest of the 20 years? There has to be something else for them. So allow them to fly, and apply those learnings is very, very important.
Amazing. So many things come to my mind when you said this thing, right? So the first, there's this lovely quote where it says the job of the leader is not to create more followers, but is to create more leaders, right? I love that thought, because very often leaders think that their job is to create followers, but no, it's the job as a leader is to create more leaders. And I think through the way, and the number one way to do that is by empowering people, right? And making them fearless in some way. But a big question is saying, how do you need to be fearless in some way for you to be able to make them fearless, right? So that's going to be one of my kind of follow-up questions to you. The other thought that comes to my mind, another quote that says 90% of what we call management is us getting in the way of people doing their job. right? I love that thought, right? 90% of what we call management is us getting in the way of people doing their jobs. So very often, I think it's immensely important that we proactively get out of people's way. And I think our other job as leaders often is to remove the barricades, the barriers that are there between people and doing their job. If we can just do that, right? Remove the barricades, remove those things whenever they need us to remove them. I think that is extremely important, right? And of course, the third thing that came to my mind, right, as somebody that conducted and trained a lot of people on the subject of leadership, I'd often just ask leaders one thing. I'd say, when you delegate a job, does your team member feel that he's doing your job, or does he feel that he's doing his own job? Right? I say that makes the whole difference in terms of how they perceive and how they do stuff. If they feel that they're doing your job, which is the leader's job, they view it in a certain way. If they believe they're doing their own job, there's a totally different way of doing that, right? And that so much of that depends on how you go about creating the right culture, how you go about delegating, in turn how you go about giving feedback. But it's such an important thought. I wonder whether you have any comments on this.
No, you have actually, put everything very, very beautifully here in these three key points. You're right. One is, first of all, my feeling is that when you come to a job, and if you think and if you feel that you have come to a job, you fail.
Yeah.
It's the absolute ownership, which can keep you going. If you come to the job to think you are coming to the job, is where it's a package.
Correct.
It's more than 12 hours. We also spend a lot of time actually dreaming about what you're doing. So it's not the job, and job can have a price tag.
Correct.
But then your passion does not have. People come here not because an assignment is given to them, but people come here because and I've seen those are the winners. Can I say that we are there? No, because you will also get certain people, who are coming here for money. There are certain set of people who are coming here to socialize also. That's also a club, and let's not forget, people also come to the office to forget their sorrows at home, which is all right. To avoid plights at home, which is also all right. Certain set of people can be seen in cafeterias and libraries and those places, which is also okay. And because that's a part of your culture, you cannot have culture without such things. And then there are certain people who are self-driven, who don't come here for money alone. Money is not the motivator. Maybe they come here. I've seen many leaders like this. I've seen many managers like this. I've also seen many people at staff level who are ready to give everything to but at a micro level within the team, if you trust and if you are trusted, then you do not have to artificially induce something that look, you have this job to be done. They will really pick up whatever you think is the organizational agenda. So how we start here is, even in those AOPs or annual operating plans, and I'm using some of these formal jargons which are used everywhere else also. If those teams are formed naturally, if those projects are picked up by them naturally, and if it finally becomes a part of the cathedral that you're trying to make, your job is done. You only have to trust that his intentions or her intentions are right. And if her intentions are right and they are contributing, you will not find attrition. You will also not find that a person has a dull day on the job. There will be dull days, it is all right, but do not feel that dull days on the job. You're right. You said you just have to dechoke situations. You just have to remove the bottlenecks. And that is what we have to do here. Youngsters coming right out of the college, Vibhor is one example, who's also on the call. It's not an act of sycophancy here. But he created something a couple of days back, a module on POSH. Now, module on POSH needs understanding, needs different elements, different dimensions, different understanding. But it's only that you have to create a module on POSH, and he probably came up with a perfect module with the help of the compliance officer or whoever, a training module which could have in turn gone into the people and to the leaders. So there is no, I think it's only trust, it's empathy, little bit of empathy, little bit of understanding. That is what people want after COVID. Is that you care for them. and the job is done. So I pretty much resonate with with your thoughts and the 3 important points that you made with some
Correct.
quotes from some of the famous places. I agree with you, Swapnil.
Correct.
That's
I
my
want to
2
ask
cents.
you, I have, there's so many directions in which I want to take this conversation, right? So you spoke about, you alluded in a way partly towards the importance of stuff like football and bike riding, a lot of your what is called extracurricular activity, and how that had a positive impact on your career. Tell us a little more about that. How do you think that had a positive impact on your career?
Yeah. Okay. Now, my best year of football came when I was in 12th, and that's a board year, you see. Now there is a family, because there is always pressure, it's a board year. You will have to study for about 16 hours a day, 10 hours, 12 hours a day. Finally, you will have to choose something, make a mark in this school. This is your final year. But I realized that none, including my parents or coach or other teachers, came in the way of my game, and in that was probably the what should I say, was full of football that particular year. Now that's when I realized that, okay, and it happened, I don't know who trusted whom. Either the parents thought that he's a gone case waste, so therefore allow him to do what he wants to do, or maybe allow him to do what he wants to do. He will responsibly deliver, on equally on the studies as well. Or maybe because I was sure and I was aware that game of football will not be the final life. It's not the calling. It is sport. It is where you've invested, so therefore you will deliver there. But nobody stopped. That was point number 1. It was always the freedom, in addition to whatever you're learning, whatever you're studying through books, or investing your time in real structured learning. A lot happens when you are interacting with people, when you are interacting, freely in the habitat where you live, where you interact with people. You go out, whether play or you become street smart by these interactions. A lot of learning comes from there. In addition to, and finally what I've realized is, either you have that structured learning. Somewhere you will have to invest that time in becoming street smart also, and then you will have to find ways in order to be what should I say, in order to be I'm at a loss of words for that, but in order to be, because the world is not only about what you have read in the books.
Yeah. I think street smart encompasses what you're trying to say there in some way.
And that will teach you a lot of things. Your negotiation skills would come from there. Your negotiation skills, your communication skills, under what situations would you want to deal and interact, will come from there, clubbed with what you are learning in a structured fashion. These two things put together is a lethal weapon.
I couldn't agree with you more, Dinesh. I think, and the reason why I asked you that is I think in a way I wanted to hear what your thoughts are, because I share a absolute similar sentiment with you on that, right? So interestingly, I have a 5.5-year-old son, and he's over the last 6 months taken up to cricket in a big way, and is almost prodigal for his age, if you ask me, at 5.5 years, which is very young. But when we keep thinking and talking about it, we're like, hey, you know what? We don't care whether this boy plays this sport professionally or not, right? However much he wants to get into the India team, right? We don't really care about that. We just realize the importance of sports to the overall, in a way, well-being of a human being, and a lot of the behaviors and attitudes that it teaches a young boy or girl, right, which they can take into their adult life in such a big way. And if you ask me, the biggest one is that you win and lose, right, in a game, right, as you do in life, right? You win and lose every day that you play, if you think about it, right? So today you played a game, tomorrow you'll win one, you'll lose one, you'll win one, you lose one. Sometimes even when your team wins, you could have played badly, right? And that's why me and my wife are very happy that he's in a way chosen a team sport, right, to participate in, because like you said, the interpersonal skills that comes with playing a sport, right? The street smartness that comes with it, the just the attitude of winning and losing, and understanding that at a very early age. These are extremely important things to grow up with and help most people immensely, if you ask me, right? Not in
Yeah.
a small way, but really immensely. And that's why I would encourage, in a way, every parent to expose their child, if they're interested, of course,
Yeah.
to a lot of extracurricular activity, right? And not just focus their energy on one thing and one thing only. Because as we've seen, like you, me, probably all of us are good examples of people that did relatively well in their career by
Yeah.
balancing both the
Both.
the study books along with the extracurricular, right? So there are
Right.
enough shining examples of that, and I think that's very, very important. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah. And the, especially the story of failure that you spoke about, and that learning at such an early age of saying, I failed one game, and the next game I just decided to tweak it at a, very young age. I tweaked my mind in terms of saying that I need to be fearless and I need to approach this topic. And, I did that, and I played the best game I ever played, right? And that's a lesson that nobody can teach you unless you experience it in some way. Right,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
right, you have to experience it. So, Mike, I have loads of questions, Dinesh, for you because it's such an interesting conversation. Tell me, how does one, and if there's no answer for it, like just say I don't know, right? Or there's no answer to this, because there are so many questions to which, if somebody asks me, I say, I don't know how it happens, right? So this is
You are right.
probably one of those questions of saying, how does one become fearless in their approach towards life or a project, or how do you bring that fearlessness, or in a way confidence in you? Is there an answer to it, or tell me
That's
tell me about this
I think
mystery?
that's very personal, to be
Yeah.
very honest with you.
Yeah.
That's also, now I understand that is very personal, but at the same time, the circumstances make you fearless.
Mm.
You really have to go through an experience in order to be, in order to be fearless or fearful, or whatever. If
Mm.
the fearless is the only thing here,
Mm.
but 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 I would only suggest that that if you attempt to do something, please attempt to do something. uh, there are various things, that we keep experiencing in life. Fear of failure is one such thing.
Mm.
In the industry that I work for, and the frontline person who's at the bottom of the pyramid in a hierarchical setup
Mm.
faces it 9 times a day and
Yeah.
succeeds 10th time.
Mm.
So that guy is fearless,
Mm.
maybe because he has failed 9 times.
Mm.
So unless you really swim, unless you really drive, unless you really play, unless you really put in an effort,
Mm.
you will not experience that. I
Mm.
don't think there is a formula or a recipe that one can eat and become fearless. You are right. I
Mm.
also don't think there is only a philosophical response to this. I only don't think that I will be able to transfer, my own fearlessness or fearfulness, or the lack of it or more of it
Mm.
into someone else. But I think programs like this,
Mm.
at least sharing of experience, is very, very important.
Mm.
And maybe these anecdotes that you and me carry, or others that you have interviewed or you'll be interviewing in future, if they
Mm.
carry and if they put this on table, maybe
Mm.
people would want to learn. And I see a lot of people learn through stories only. A lot of
Mm.
people learn, draw inspiration from movies, and draw inspiration and fearlessness from whatever you watch, whatever you see, whatever you experience around you, in the
Mm.
right and the wrong sense, both.
Mm.
For us, right thing is more important to be picked up.
Got it. So,
There's
so
no
what
fixed
I
formula. You're right. Cannot be
correct,
injected.
correct. Can't be injected for sure. But yeah, I like what you shared, right? Because I think, um, I I think sometimes we underestimate the importance of exposure in the form of a book, or exposure in the form of a movie, or exposure in the form of a podcast that or a show that you may, listen to, and that could have a great impact on people for sure, no doubt about it. I would keep saying that you need to be very careful about your media diet in some way, right? What is the diet of stuff that you're consuming? And if you
Yeah.
start consuming stuff which is positive,
So naturally.
using positive as a very, very broad term, I think that becomes very, very important. And I can tell you that that's become I can attribute whatever little success that I've had also to that right kind of exposure that I've given myself through the years, in terms of reading, say, autobiographies, or just watching a lot of positive stuff, and positive stories from other people has had a tremendous impact on my life, right? So I agree with you. That may not be the answer, but that could be definitely one thing that impacts people in some way, right? And people should look at consuming positive material for sure. There's no doubt that those things matter, right? You spoke about you again, you didn't really talk about it, but I'm going in that direction. As an HR head, Dinesh, what are the changes pre and post COVID that you've seen? Tell me the 2 or 3 kind of stark differences that you're seeing in people working in organizations.
Yeah. So, all right, the first thing that I see is people are choosing employers who are more caring, versus the earlier era. People are also moving away from prescription to or from prescription direction and guidance to allow me to experiment, because they want to live life the way they have not lived life earlier. And so what is important is another thing is trust I spoke about. So care and trust is one same thing. They would want organizations to have empathy, and trust me, empathy before COVID was not there on our value board. Okay, and empathy was really introduced in the year 2021.
Yeah.
Because we really realized, and the leadership, and it did not come as a statement or as a pretense, on the value board. But we were working on this, and we thought empathy is one important thing that everybody, not sympathy of COVID, but empathy that understand me, please. It is very, very important for you to understand. Another thing is that organizations were less listening earlier, are more listening now. So aspect of communication, again, it hints towards prescription or guidance to allow me to operate the way I want to operate. The organizations, the people are expecting organizations to be more tolerant, not only in terms of that I should be allowed to work from home, but also cognitive tolerance, that look, this is the way I can function, this is what my assets are, this is, can you really allow me to choose a project over asking me to do a particular project? Trust me more. So again and again it goes back to trust me more. I am not here to cheat. I am here to, for you and me to stay together in this and succeed is more important than your win. So it is win-win,
So
which is
interesting.
demanded. And these are certain things which they come to my mind immediately. That's how it has changed. So what is underlying thing here is empathy, trust, and care. Allow me to function. We are equal in this. So not only equity and that, and you would have seen a lot of DNI initiatives getting now. Other important thing that I've seen in pre and the post era in my or organization is that a job is a package where working on a desk or working on computer or doing MIS or doing artificial intelligence or doing IT or doing HR is not the only thing. Is there a possibility where I can work on cross-functional projects? Possibility where you will allow me to operate in your CSR domain, or where there are limited people who are getting exposed to. I would want to visit the village that the company or some of the designated selected officials are going. I really want to contribute. Now, this is when people have started sympathizing and empathizing with what has happened, because people are human beings. They got impacted, because of COVID. They've seen death. They've seen negative things happening around them. They've seen that people have struggled and suffered, and they've seen their plights. If they've not experienced themselves, but they've seen others suffering. So that learning has happened through somebody else's suffering also. So they've come forward and they said, I want to be a part of your CSR initiative. Allow me to go to Jalna or far off places, and I would want to do some service. I would really like to contribute. That is a different dimension of a human being who was otherwise running in a rat race, who was otherwise running in that I have to repay my education loans first, then I will be ready to pick up another loan, and then I'll be ready to pick up another loan. Other thing that I've seen is that people are now more aware of and demanding, aware and demanding about their well-being. which includes their mental well-being. They have started asking about benefits which are less tangible and more of non-tangible things, which could include a package with a counselor also, which would include greater insurance as well, which would include the well-being of the family members at home, and all that. We have also seen that many organizations are now open to allow their family members to work for the same setup. There used to be policies where a family member or an immediate family member cannot work in the same organization, so to say. Many organizations are very open to this. The companies have opened up. They said, okay, bring in flexibility in not only in timings but assignments, but the roles that you choose. So a lot of things have and otherwise this learning would have happened in 10 years. Maybe COVID, a negative event like COVID, has fast tracked it. It has happened in just 3 years' time.
Yeah. It's so interesting, Dinesh. The thing is that one of the benefits I have of talking to so many HR heads across so many industries is, you really figure out what are the things that are common and what are the things that are different. And more often than not, irrespective which industry we're talking about, the big thing that hits me, Dinesh, all the time is most things across all industries are all common, right? Because I've asked this question to now so many off camera and on camera, ask this question to so many HR heads, and you'll be shocked to know that they have the exact same things to say as you have, right? And none of this is prompted. If anybody watches the 8 or 9 interviews that are there, they'll see the same thing said in different words, and it's that means it's really happening, right? And for any organization that's not keeping pace with that, it's definitely going to be sidelined, if you ask me, right? So when you spoke about people being a lot more aware and demanding, right? More or less the exact same words are used, right? That people have become more aware and more demanding, and it's not all about the CTC, right? It's about the benefits, which could be the culture that is provided in that particular organization. Like you said, the counselor, the therapy, what all are you doing in a holistic way for your people, which is not just limited to one angle. Everyone has spoken about that, right? And which I think is a good thing, right? I think that raised awareness that people have is good both for them personally and professionally, if you ask me, right? I think another big point that everybody speaks about is the importance of an organization improving its culture, which, if you ask me, a subset of that is the whole element of care, which is very important, the element of trust, the element of empathy that we need to show both as a culture and individuals towards our particular people. So I'm seeing that as a big trend that everybody is talking about. And the other one, in terms of people's desire today to work on what they think is important, what they think is interesting, what they think is going to be a win-win and value add both for the company and themselves, right? So they're also demanding when it comes to the kind of work that they want to do, right? And I'm seeing all of these as I am seeing, and through my interactions with HR heads like you, I'm seeing this as a trend that is happening across the board, and which I think is a net positive, if you ask me.
Absolutely. I mean, you've summarized it very well, and with your own inputs of having interacted with so many people. People have started happiness as a phrase, as a word, it has become very important all of a sudden. We have been conducting surveys. This is the second time that we have conducted a happiness survey in the organization, where the number of surveys itself have gone up. Because and in genuine sense, trust me, organizations across industry, you're right, across industry, irrespective of where you work, where you go to work, where you are associated with, but people have started listening, and all of a sudden companies have become listening places, listening organizations.
I think that's quite amazing.
There are companies who if earlier did not have a retaliatory policy, they are having retaliatory. Just be silent and listen. Do not try to do not try to judge. A person will come and open up, and that itself will make the culture better and the overall organization better.
Absolutely.
Some time, and it definitely will take some time because it's a big shift, big change, but it will happen.
And I think this has been a firm belief for many years, right? That your work is usually the place where you spend the most amount of time in your adult life, right? And if those places can't bring about the right culture, which of course has a direct impact on your overall well-being, that's not a very, very good place to be in. So I'm sure that a very tragic event like COVID has accelerated companies being aware about their culture, companies being more aware about how their people are reacting to stuff. I think that's very, very important, right? Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Dinesh, a couple of questions, right? So as a new person entering the workforce, irrespective of which industry they're joining, right, what would be the 2 or 3 skills that you think are most important in 2023 for somebody entering the workforce? What would be those 3 skills? And I'll also tell you what my follow-up question is going to be right after that. My follow-up question then is going to be, because my first question is around just professionals in general joining any stream across any company, and my follow-up question is going to be an HR professional in specific entering the workforce today. What are the 2, 3 things required for that, right? So I want you to, in a way, to divide these two and answer the first one first and then move to the second one. You're on mute.
Fair. I got both, and I will, try to give my point of view on this. See, what has become important is from a competency, point of view, somebody who's entering the workforce at this point of time is the skills are changing. We all agree. As a result, you will see that I'll speak about a very micro thing. When this year, when we conducted our own assessment center, we said, okay, digital mindset is very, very important. Now, digital mindset as a competency, what does it mean? Should it only apply to technology teams? Should it only apply to someone who's working on artificial intelligence and all that? We said, whatever we do, digital mindset is important. And it is not digital, but it is mindset which is important. So therefore, you will find that everything that we do is important, whether it is learning, even these learning modules, brick and mortar model of going to a school and learning has now, so most of our, people who have joined higher education courses are not going to the schools and sitting across the professor and talking, but they are using modules like upGrad or some of the other modules that we introduced for our people, and not only technology team. Now, what has become important is people keep saying that some of these jobs will get redundant, good systems will throw good reports, good analytics, and blah blah blah. That will happen. But having said this, let's understand that critical thinking, innovative mindset, digital mindset in what you do, learning new technologies, demonstrating a different type of leadership. And one most important thing that the current workforce already have in them is finding unconventional solutions to hard problems of business. Now, if these 4 or 5 things that these guys, and of course these are all based on the spine here is, or the nervous center here is the ownership or your own original thought process. If that individual who is joining the workforce today, and I would like to believe that the current generation thinks differently, because they are more here to think, because they don't belong to my era, where things started differently, and because of the transformation, it is now landed elsewhere. They've started at a point where things are already better. So therefore they can think, and if they can think, these things are very, very important. Applying their critical and analytical thinking, innovation on the job, practical innovations, and finding unconventional solutions to these problems of business. That's where they will make a mark.
Got it.
So this is for the particular piece. Now other thing is,
I'll just say, I just want to quickly do a summary so that our audience can take something out. So I think number one that you spoke about is anybody entering the workforce today, very important for them to have a digital mindset. I think that's important. So in a way, they can't have a fear for technology, right? Or they can't have a fear in a way to go digital, because we need to make the most of the digital world in each and every form. And if we don't use the advantages of that, I think as people and organizations, we'll be behind. I think the second thing that you spoke about is people's ability to do critical or analytical thinking about stuff, right? So to be good thinkers so that they can analyze problems and therefore find solutions to those problems. And the third thing connected to problems that you spoke about is the ability to innovate and the ability in a way to think out of the box around hard problems that companies have, right? And really be able to wear a fresh cap on that. And besides that, you spoke about, I think, the overall concept of taking ownership, right, of whatever you're doing. So these would be your four things for anybody entering the workforce today, for them to build as skills.
So basically the thinking and saying, saying what they really want to say, that, some of the solutions that the regular guys like me cannot bring in, and those can be brought by these individuals who have fresh thought process, fresh thinking. So most of them are living the life of they think, therefore they are. And
so coming to HR folks, anybody finishing their MBA in HR and entering the workforce, what would you ask them to do? What would be the 2 or 3 skills that you think are important in today's HR world for them?
Okay, one suggestion to these HR guys, even before, budding HR professionals, or who may not have entered or have chosen their own subject specialization, would be choose a subject based on their own strengths and not based on what is happening in the industry. For example, most of the guys that I speak at campuses are very, very encouraged to join operations, because they think everybody will land up in a supply chain job with one of these biggies. And guys who have great strengths on the people front, interpersonal front, they turn a blind eye to those strengths, and based on what is happening in the market or some of these fads, which will stay, of course, there are great careers there, but they get encouraged, motivated, or influenced by what is happening currently in the industry, forgetting about. So first is choose based on the strengths. Because and there are tools available in the market to understand your own strengths. If you can't rely upon a particular tool or an apparatus that you have, go consult people, go read on platforms and understand your own strengths, do some assessments, and then choose. Now, having chosen HR, having joining the HR bandwagon or industry for HR, I think gone are the days where we thought, I am bound, because I have studied HR, I am authorized a license to counsel people and give gyan. That's not the case. It is important for HR guys to shut up and listen to people again. It is not that you are a superior power, because in the industry, any industry, it is understood that you are at a particular level, and if you belong to a VP grade, you already are entitled to a senior vice president thought process. That's not it. If you are a senior vice president, you are entitled to an EVP just because HR draws a lot of power, But then when you think that you are already powerful, the learning will stop immediately. You would think that you are entitled license to counseling. You think that you have read many more books than 110 books versus 100 books read by some other guy. So that thought process must stop here. You are joining equal. You also do not have an escalator or an elevator ride that you can get in order to reach the top. No, because there is a scrutiny. You may like it or do not like it. You should not. First of all, the underlying thing is you should not fear for people's opinion. I understand what you want to do it. But then at the same time, you are open to more scrutiny. You will also be challenged by a data-driven workforce. So therefore, you yourself, first thing will be your own approach will have to be data-driven. Your own approach will have to be analytical. You do not only hire people and give it to, because hiring is no more an HR guy's job. You only participate, you only set processes, you only pave the path. You are the custodians of the process. You are also the person who would ask right questions on cultural fronts, behavioral fronts, and blah, blah, blah. But you are not the only one participating in the interview process. You will be asked questions. You will have to have the data. You will have to have, because classically it was understood that hiring is HR's job. So therefore, whatever the HR guy will ask questions and find out and will facilitate hiring and will issue an appointment. So those are things sitting on the fringes. But the core is, are you choosing right? Therefore, you need to be of learned of a different type of a. You also need to have the industry knowledge. Most of these HR guys are inward looking. I was. But what is happening in the industry is very, very important. Benchmarking is important. What is happening outside the industry is equally important. There is no more relationship of giver and taker. That I give you these policies. Forget about those days, because people are creating policies. People are demanding for policies. So data driven, you will be asked question, why this insurance and why not this insurance? Why this much mediclaim? Why not this much mediclaim? And why do you are asking me to? So be ready. Be ready with those responses. Another is the job of the HR guy not to interview and to exit. So not at the both ends of entry and the exit door, but it is important that you are continuously working to provide your people with the tools to learn. Create the ecosystem, create the right atmosphere, create the right drive, instill the right drive amongst people, that continuous learning is very, very important. By saying continuous learning is very, very important, the job is not done. You will have to really create those platforms and also take the horse to the well. Yeah, that is again very important thing. And it is not a trainee or a management trainee's job alone. It is all. It starts at the management trainee level at HR. In HR to the topmost guy in HR. Everybody has to, and it is no more talking. It is no more about lip service. It is about actually creating something. Still, you will fail in encouraging most of the people to go to the well and drink water. That will happen, but you cannot give up.
Yeah.
So that is the most important thing. You have not only have duty towards those individuals, but organizational duty, because continuous learning. As I said, first at 20, you become something, in the current world, 2021, because it is about skill-based thing. It is no more about graduation. It's about skill. An organization started hiring for skills, no more graduation. 21 to 40, you have already done something, achieved and accomplished something, because you are already on a fast track. The world around you is also moving fast. Therefore, you will move fast.
Yeah.
The remaining 20 years, you will do something else. So learning has to happen continuously.
Got it.
And that is providing that ecosystem is HR guy's responsibility.
Got it.
Important thing is employee experience, creating work culture. Those are the softer aspects of the HR guy. Again, HR is at some places, HR is a part of it. HR is a catalyst in some places. HR is only the ecosystem creator. You do not need to be at the front, you see. It's no more tom-tomming about own, HR guys, and these are the initiatives by HR. But are you listening, making the organization aware? Are you helping people to adopt to the right thing, or whatever are your duties towards the organization? Are they getting fulfilled and not? And then outcome will be production or productivity. Outcome could be less attrition, more retention. Outcome could be a workforce which is nimble-footed, which is always ready to take up assignments. Outcome would be an engaged workforce. Measure all that, and open it to the world. Also, gone are the days where the HR used to be a translucent function. Everything goes. I'll secretly keep all the data, information about not only about employee but compensation, rewards. People understand compensation and rewards better than even some of the HR guys. You see,
got it.
So that's where that mindset shift will have to happen. And finally, once again, I think start trust more and more people.
Got it.
For the people who are joining the workforce, please demand, and it's the message for please demand for those things, those cross-functional projects. Ask for that trust. And make sure that where you are trusted, stay. Where you're not trusted, you demand for it first. Give the organization the opportunity.
Correct.
Demand for that care if you don't get it there. Because I have seen many smaller organizations have aligned themselves to what the company or the people in the company are demanding. New guys can bring in a lot of change. Even some of your statements, some of your values will change 2 to 3 years. And that is only possible when the younger workforce is joining and asking for things.
Got it. Got it. So I think if I have to kind of summarize your answer for a budding professional, you've spoken about a lot of things, but I think number one would be listen to people, right? So develop that key ability as an HR professional to listen to your colleagues, because if you can't do that, then you really can't do anything else. If you're an HR professional, I think you again spoke about the importance of data-driven and analytical skills for an HR person, and this is another Dinesh trend that is coming out in my conversations with HR heads, because earlier what people would get into HR thinking that if I'm a people's person only, I should get into HR. And I think like all streams, whether it's supply chain, finance, marketing, sales, everything is becoming very data driven today, right? And very the analytics of that data also is becoming very important to companies. So I think it's important for budding HR professionals to really build those skills so that they can be valuable to their companies. And also I think you spoke about ensuring that you have exposure to what's happening in your industry, right? I think that's extremely important for an HR person to know. I think both things, right? What's happening, having a deep having your ear to the ground in terms of what's happening in your company, including the company finances, what's going well, what are the new products, so on and so forth, right? So being very thorough with that, but also knowing what's happening in that overall industry that you belong to as well, right? So yeah, having that overview of stuff has become, I think, very important to HR professionals. There's no doubt about it. Okay, we've run out of time, Dinesh, but I'm going to ask you one last question, right?
Please.
What keeps you up at night as an HR head? And even if you don't want to answer that in particular in context, say to your company, right? Generally in today's time and age, what is keeping the HR head of companies up at night?
Okay. How to retain talent?
Okay.
And continuously, how to retain talent, how to keep them motivated, how to keep them going, in the system. And it's not, the worry is not their productivity. Worry is not that they will contribute. The worry is that they should stay.
Yeah.
By staying in the organization, if they stay, if they are motivated enough, if the right pay mix and if the right mix of the opportunity is offered to them, my job is done. Productivity will come automatically. So it's no more about that I need to be, I or HR function needs to really continuously understand and see the dashboards where production is happening or no. Their requirements are met. The workforce is so honest. People are so honest to themselves first, followed by where they are working. And finally, see, I'll tell you, sense of belongingness is very, very important. And if we have been able to create that sense of belongingness, that I belong to this place because I spent 15 hours here, because not only the bread and butter comes from here, but I get respect and dignity, and I get challenges, I get opportunities in the same system, I get juice for my mind, I feel empowered. If all those things are done, they will produce. So production is not the worry. How do I keep them with all these ingredients is the worry. And trust me, any person leaving the team at this point of time, team in the sense team of 6,000 plus people, worries HR guys.
Good.
And another point, if I may add, Swapnil, one last point. And in the process, upskilling is very, very important. A very important thing that comes to my mind, where it was said by somebody very famous that it's not about the illiterates of the future are not those who can't read. I think you also spoke about this somewhere. But those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. How do we create opportunities for them to continuously learn and upskill? Is very, very important. And that's where these kind of partnerships are important. That's where the partnership that we have here is very, very important. So you've already created a well. How do we take the horse to that well? Is my duty, and that may give me some sleepless nights. This is where I'll stop.
I think that's such a nice note to end on, because I think that's a universal problem. Our ability to engage, retain, engage our talent and ensure our talent keeps getting better. That's, I think, a universal problem. And that is something that's going to keep both HR heads and companies on their toes. But I think that's a net positive for us. When we are as HR people or industry leaders kept on our toes because of this, I think what we will put out to people and in turn put out to the country, I think will be a lot better, right? We often measure our progress in terms of GDP growth, which is extremely important, right? But I also often think that other measures of measuring progress also are very important, right? Like the standard of living of people, right? The overall mental well-being of people, right? And how they're feeling on a day-to-day basis. Those are such important parameters, difficult to measure, but important parameters for us to truly become a leader as a country. So I think that is very, very important for us, and this is a small step that we can take as industry leaders in that particular direction.
Yeah, very well summarized. You're right, Swapnil, and that's a net positive. You said you're right.
Yeah,
And it's a
absolutely.
good problem to have.
Yes, absolutely. Dinesh, it was an absolute pleasure doing this show with you and doing this particular conversation with you. You've shared a lot of interesting things with a lot of passion, which is very much like you, even off camera. So I'm very happy that you were truly being yourself. And I've, of course, learned a lot of stuff. And each one of these conversations that I have with successful professionals like you is often a trigger for me, gets me thinking on a lot of different things. So I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope our partnership continues going into the future. And I hope this friendship that is developing also continues, right? So thank you very
Yeah.
much for being here,
Thank you.
and I will see you soon.